Well, hello everybody. We're here in Ocean Grove actually today in Mark's home office overlooking the ocean, and it's a beautiful day out there, Mark. It's looking really good.
It's a glorious day. Just don't look out the window, you won't focus.
So one of the issues before we move on with our guest today is that our podcast is, we've been notified that we've actually had 1,000 downloads. Now, I don't know whether that's good or bad at this stage, but when you considered we started 6 months ago from scratch, I think we've done very well. I'm really pleased with the result.
Yeah, it's hard to judge what's good and what's not, but 1,000 downloads seems pretty good, doesn't it?
I think so, and it's taken a lot of effort. And we've done, we believe, about 40 interviews.
Yep, and lots of really, and every single one has been interesting.
Oh, that's an understatement. They've been enlightening, and they've certainly introduced us to some people that we would never have met in our lives if it hadn't been for doing this podcast. Anyway, let's move on. So who are we interviewing today, Mark?
Well, we've got Dominique Ho sitting with us today from ViewPoint Digital Media. Dominique and I know each other through the Ocean Grove Business Association. Dominique lives and works in Ocean Grove, and I've got to know her over a couple of years, I think, actually, in all sorts of ways, from selling tickets at a business association event to Dominique working on the website, etc., for the business association. So I've been really pleased to get Dominique on, and here we are. So welcome, Dominique.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Dominique, where did it all begin? Where did you go to primary school? Let's go that far back.
Yeah, right. I went to primary school in North Bowen at a school called Bellevue Primary. Yeah, the whole red and green uniform.
And from primary school, high school?
Yep. Then I went to Eltham High.
Oh, Melbourne. So, okay, you're Melbourne-based.
Yep. So I went to Eltham High, and then from there I went to Hawthorn Secondary, and then I left.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you do? What took you away from school?
I left because I couldn't concentrate. And I actually took up commercial cookery. So I went to a TAFE, Swinburne TAFE in Paran, and I did my apprenticeship as a chef.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And was that sort of in your mind that you wanted to be a chef? Were you leaning towards that, or was it just your love of cooking?
I really enjoyed cooking. My parents were all for me leaving school, but I needed something to go to. My dad suggested that I really like cooking. There's a lot of opportunities to being a chef with travel and the types of cuisines and people to work with. So I said, sure, yep, let's do it. And then I pretty well went and got my own apprenticeship, and yeah.
And who did you got a name who you worked for?
Yeah. I worked for, I think my first one was at Hairy Canary in Little Collins Street in Melbourne. I loved it there. Glenn Laurie now runs, it was the Common Ground down here, I think. Yep. Is that Torquay or that area now? So I'm still yet to pop in and say hi after all these years.
Yeah, Dominique, that's Torquay Road. I know where you mean. But just talking about TAFE, a couple of weeks ago we interviewed one of the commercial director at Gordon TAFE, and we were taken on a tour of the new facilities there where they've spent $20-odd million. And there's a new cooking or culinary school, I guess you'd call it, with a restaurant and cafe and
bakery
and a bakery and a barista training centre like you've never seen in your life. And I would suggest that any young person who's coming out of school and not sure what they want to do, particularly in this area down here, TAFE is a fantastic option. It really is.
Yeah.
And I've taught in TAFE in Melbourne in the past, but now the government has decided that they're really going to invest in it. And I think, it's one of the best kept secrets, as I keep talking about. We were so impressed.
Yeah, I really enjoyed TAFE. Yeah. I had quite a small class, but we got to do some really, really fun things. It was always something I looked forward to going. Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah. So that was your first. Then where did you go with your food journey? So what?
Yeah, and then I reckon I went to EQ in next to the art centre. That was an experience because it's very fast-paced, being pre and post the theatres
Yep.
and the service production. So that was really fun. And then I think I moved to Port Douglas to work at Salsa Bar and Grill. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what led you out of food then? Where did the transition, what was Bill and I refer to things as tipping points, or I like to say sliding door moments. Something happens and you go, I'll go this way. What changed?
Yeah, so I think I was helping open up a restaurant in Toorak. I had moved back from Port Douglas back to Melbourne, met Greg, my husband, and I was helping open up a restaurant in Toorak. And then on the way, Greg and I were doing something to the shops on the highway, and then on the way back, we actually got into a car accident, and we had braked quite suddenly, but the person and didn't hit the person in front, but the person behind us wasn't able to stop in time, and then took the back of our car out. But soon later afterwards, we realised that my seat had actually detached and had twisted, and it wasn't until maybe 2 weeks later that I started to feel all those effects in my body, and then I wasn't able to work and walk and carry and even lean over to the pass. Like I used to carry big, drums of oil and things like that and work long, long hours on my feet, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I ended up having 8 months in rehab with just trying to get better, and then during that time I realised I'm not going to be able to go back to commercial cookery anymore. So I did my my training and assessment qualification to teach commercial cookery, and I did that for another 8 or 9 years or so after that, which I really loved. Yeah.
So you moved into went from cooking to teaching cooking.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
And you really enjoyed that?
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, there's the reason that sort of I transitioned out of the commercial cookery and the teaching side of things was because the international market it was really booming for a long time, and then I'm not entirely sure of all the actuals, but there wasn't as many students coming from overseas, so there wasn't as many classes available, and then that's when my family said, why don't you come in on the family business? And I said, okay.
So what's the family business?
So the family business was a digital marketing and agency, and in various formats. And
based where?
In Melbourne.
In Melbourne. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So how did that go? What did you do? What was day one?
Day one, I reckon day one, my cousin was working there, my brother was working there, and my dad. And I reckon my cousin showed me around Google Ads, and I was mesmerised. I was like, oh my God, everything moves so fast. This is so fun. My brain can keep up with this. This is awesome. And then one thing led to another, and my cousin got an opportunity, so he moved on and I took his job, and then I took lots of online courses and taught myself everything now, because it changes so much. I didn't really have time to go to school and study. I needed to really learn quickly on the job because I was in that role with clients. And so, yeah.
Actually, it's interesting, isn't it? Because things like Google just suddenly change their algorithms. And so behind the scenes, do they send that out to you? Do they educate you that this is happening, or do you discover and you've got to work it out?
No, they will send like notifications on what's happening. It's when it sort of rolls out to that person. They don't roll everything out generally all at once, but I sort of stay on top of like Google Garage and doing, even Facebook Blueprint and stuff like that, just to make sure that we're up to date, because you don't need to necessarily use all of the tools or all of the techniques for every client. Every client's goals and objectives are all very different, and so you need to apply different things to different businesses, which has been very fascinating over now.
Markets are so typical, isn't it, that even the way that we learnt to use this podcast equipment, where'd we go? We sat in front of YouTube for half a day and taught ourselves how to do it.
And I constantly go back on YouTube to see how to tweak things and do things. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm watching videos all the time on how to do things. Dominique, let's jump right into where we are today. And you first came to notice your business as a judge of the Geelong Business Awards, and you were one of the finalists in those awards, which is a great achievement because entering awards like that, it really makes you think about your business. And then you have judges come out and try and pull you apart, of course, and move on. But you've got a business, as Mark mentioned before, based in Ocean Grove in the industrial precinct. But I believe it's a classic, well, started from home, had to move on, got bigger and bigger, and here you are today. In fact, we can't even do this broadcast in your studio today because there's too many people there all at once and it's a hive of activity.
Yes, it is today.
So what led you and Greg down to Ocean Grove? What made you say, right, let's step away and do our own thing?
Yeah, so we were living in like the western suburbs of Melbourne, and that's where we first bought. And then we had an opportunity to sell because it was a high sort of a turnover kind of an area. So we thought, yeah, okay, let's jump on that. We had been coming to Ocean Grove to surf for years and years before that. And then it wasn't until on a way back from a wedding that we realised, yeah, let's just do it. We always had thought about moving to Ocean Grove later. And then we thought, you know what, let's just do it now. What are we waiting for? So we just did it.
Big step. So when did you break away to create your own business? Was that part of the process?
Yeah, no. So I kept working for the family business, ongoing. And when we moved down here, I actually started at another business doing this 4 days a week. And then my daughter was just about to go to sessional kinder. And I thought, I really want to be more available and more home. And the workplace I was working, didn't really have capacity for me to be super flexible with sessional hours, and sessional kinder is really hard to work with. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to actually start our own down here, still work with my family, but under our own brand. And then I can do these pickups, and it can be a bit tricky for
flexibility
and
important.
Flexible. And I work at night time to make up for the time during the day where my clients needed to. And
So when you started that new venture or your own new venture, I've recently read a book called Feel the Fear But Do It Anyway. So what was did you have those feelings of fear? What am I doing? How's it going to go? How did you was that all part of what you were doing?
Nah, I don't always go through those thoughts. I'm a really dive in.
You just jump straight in, is that right?
I really do. I jump straight in and I figure it out. And not once did my husband ever question, and we talked about it obviously a lot beforehand, can we financially do this until I start sort of getting up and running? And he was like, let's just do it and figure it out. We'll just wing it. That's really my motto for the first, 5 years. Just wing it. No, I'm still winging it from day to day. Every situation, everything is all different. But
it's considered. It's not. I like the way you say it's wing it, but you do think about it.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, it's a
because you are a very measured person in what you do.
Well, you do have responsibilities now. You've got people working for you, of course, and you've got to look after your clients. So, do you have a typical client, or do you specialise in any sort of client type?
Yeah, initially I worked with, and it wasn't intentional, but I worked with a lot of allied health, and that was from the very beginning, from when I first started working at my family business, that they were physios and osteos and dentists, and so I grew to understand the APRA and the regulations quite well, and then just chatting to, my osteo down here and my physio and things like that, I just got more and more of those. But initially I would say that was probably our special sort of area, but it's not like that now. Now I guess our ideal client would be somebody who is in a position to sort of use all of our services. So now we have the retainer model, which basically gives us time to use all of the techniques, because it's not one thing that will help grow a business online. you really need to look at all of those, the landscape is so big. So we need to look at all of those techniques and how, not just chuck it out there, as you say, be measured and thoughtful and have the strategy really to use all of those techniques.
Well, my next question then is, as a small business owner in the region, and I'm looking to get more involved in digital and social media and all the rest of it, do you see any sort of common theme amongst people that come to you that have been struggling with what they've been doing? And then are you got the magic wand where you're able to get them properly structured and really get into social media because it is taking over or has taken over?
Yeah, it's definitely here. Recently, I've seen a lot of people, and the lots of conversations I've had with people is that they've tried to do a lot themselves, and I always say that's amazing, that lots of people have built their own websites, they've started their own Google Ads campaigns and done all their socials and everything themselves, but they say that generally it's not working. I don't know what to do. I'm throwing money at all of this and nothing's happening. So I look at that, and I look at their website, their user experience, and try to build a strategy with them. So generally the first thing I would say is do a strategy session and look at all the areas.
Yeah.
How many people working for you now?
I reckon we've got 10. I think there's 10.
And Greg's working with you?
Yep.
So Greg started doing photography shoots and stuff, I think, because I was a model.
That's right, yes.
You were really desperate. And what's that part of the business?
Yeah, so Greg was working in Melbourne as a media producer for a sports travel company, and then when we moved down here, he went to the hospital and was doing the same thing. And then eventually he moved out of that, like one day at a time actually per week, and then came into ViewPoint and then continued to sort of storytell for businesses through videography and photography.
That's good. And you're still doing your little shoots to give people professional shots for LinkedIn?
Yeah, we haven't got
that?
a date set in at the moment.
Yep.
It's a bit chaotic actually, which is awesome.
Because you're busy.
It's
good.
Fun. It's fun, chaotic, yeah. And yeah, so we haven't got another date booked in just yet, but now you've mentioned it, I'll have to.
That's great. And picking up on Bill's point, if somebody's out there, and we think we're getting lots of listens to our podcast, if they're sitting out there thinking, all right, I really need to get someone to look at my website and my socials, what should they do? What's the questions they need to ask themselves to find the right person? And why should they come to you, I suppose, at the end of the day? What are the things that you will ask them and help them through?
Yeah. When we're doing... So I would suggest for anybody to start with a strategy session. I think with us and our values as a business, and that flows through to the team, is that we're very transparent. And we will only tell you what we really believe that person needs and not upsell them. There's no fries with that. We just are very transparent and very honest about what we think that you need, and also educate. We educate our clients heaps on why and how, and include them and collaborate. There's lots of businesses that are our clients that just want to handball and say, here you go, do it all. I'll just pay the bills and look at the report. But then there's lots of businesses that enjoy it, enjoy learning about digital marketing, and we love that, and we will teach them and have lots of communication.
So do you aim to let them be self-sufficient, or is it a combination? You want their input because it's their business and you're just polishing it? And
some businesses, it really depends because everybody's so different.
Yep.
There's businesses that, for instance, there might be things in the moment. So we might have them on as a retainer. We might be doing their Google Ads, their SEO, maybe we're content managed, doing their blogs and writing their blogs, and doing, did I mention socials already? Yep. But they also might have things that are happening in the moment, which we are not there for. And if they are happy to post about in the moment to their own socials, well, then we say absolutely go for it, because we want their input. Yep. We're not taking over. We're working with them. We're on their team.
Yep, that's a good point. That's a really good point. So you've done a couple of websites in Ocean Grove. One you've done with the Business Association, and one you're working on with the Ocean Grove Parks Association. So you seem to like giving back into the community, because I know the amount of effort you put into it is not commensurate with the money you get paid. So what leads you into that sort of, what other community type involvement do you have?
We're involved at Nippers, down at the surf club. We're in the Business Association. What else? We've done Clean Up Australia Day a few years in a row. I think we're going to do that again.
The school, probably?
The school, yes. I built the school's website. Actually, we've done a few websites around here, which is lovely. Yeah.
And I suppose part of it is, and being in the field you're in is probably one of those unique things where people automatically turn to you and think you can do it for them for nothing. And I suppose that's the hard part, is where you've got to try and measure that up and help them, but you can't do it for nothing. Because I can't think of any other business where, if you've got an accountant as a friend, you could say to them, hey, can you give me some advice, which they can do, but you wouldn't ask them to do your tax for nothing. And I always find it fascinating that the digital side seems to be one where people say, how much? And can't you do it cheaper? How do you find that? Is that?
Yeah, it is. It is really tricky, and we just sort of try to keep educating. And it's a lot of time required to do what we do, because we have to keep up with what's happening in the industry. And I find a lot of businesses, it sounds easy, it looks easy, it's all of this, I can just, put a post up on socials, but it's measured and it's thought through, and we've got a professional content writer and image and this, and we're doing it as part of like the whole strategy,
yep.
Which is what I think when we receive comments like this, it's not maybe thought of, or they don't know, or
I think it's a lot of people don't know what they don't know, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, one of the other things there is that when people often just put things on the internet or on social media saying, I need help with this, but I don't want to pay for it. Or I see there's a very well-known site in Geelong, it's a community site, and people will put posts up there and saying, where can I find the cheapest lawyer? Where can I find the cheapest accountant? And as soon as I see that, I cringe, because there's no such thing as the cheapest. And just in your digital world, you've got years of experience, you've got thousands of hours of experience, you've got the knowledge, and that's value. So it's not for free.
It's not for free.
There has to be a genuine cost to it.
Yep.
Because that's why we're all in business.
That's right. And there is, even though we are digital, there's still a lot of overheads, maybe not in terms of, stock holding or products or stuff, but we have a lot of subscriptions to things to help us stay ahead. And so we can help everybody and develop a really solid strategy. But by us doing our job, the client can do their job instead of trying to do our job and their job. And it's really hard to keep up. And you feel like you're just banging your head on the wall.
We'll never be embarrassed to charge what your real worth is.
No.
That's the key issue. And we've been through this with a couple of mentoring programs, Mark,
yep.
where where people expect free, but it should never be free.
No, and it's interesting because you're doing, I know you enjoy mentoring, and you've been doing some mentoring through the Melbourne Innovation Centre.
Yes, I have.
Enjoying that? Yeah.
Yes, I do. I really enjoy it. I've been doing it a bit over a year now, and I've met a lot of people. I did count how many people I had been mentoring at the start of this year, but I reckon I want to say a good 140 100, maybe more, 150 maybe people I've mentored since February 2022.
And that mentoring, again, I think in the digital space, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but there'd be an expectation perhaps that you'll help them create a website in that little 2-hour mentoring session.
Yes, it is. It is. It is a little bit funny what some people their expectations, and sometimes they put me on the spot, and they've got their whole team there and say, so what can you do for me? And I'm like, I don't know about you yet.
But it's part of the strategy and trying to help.
So I just try to, bring it back and ask questions and try to help them ask questions that they may, or think about things that they may not have thought about yet for their business. And I hear it a lot. Oh, I didn't think of that. And that just warms my heart.
Yeah. And so what do you see coming up on the horizon with, we were chatting off mic about Chat GPT and artificial intelligence, etc. Where do you see all that heading because you're intimately involved with all this stuff, where do you see it heading? Is it improving things, or is it going to make things harder? Or
I'm still of the belief that I think that we need to work together, and it's a collaboration of using the AI tools and human too. Like we would use AI to help us maybe brainstorm or flesh something out, and then we bring it off there and make it relatable for that particular client or that industry or something sort of along those lines. We don't use the AI just purely. I know there's people who are using like AI to create art, and that's really beautiful and it comes up amazing. Our tool that we use isn't like Chat GPT.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, I've tried that and I thought, oh my God, there's so many words I've got to put in here. I like to write, and then my app tweaks what I've written and writes it 3 different ways. And it actually, more than anything, it makes me think differently, which is what I really like about it. So I'll put in what I want to say, and then it will spit out 3 outputs. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. Great. That gives me another idea, and I'll go and write something else, or our team will.
So it's a tool. It's one of the many tools you use. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that's
Dominique,
really interesting.
just if I can just talk about another subject, which is cybersecurity. I've involved with a couple of businesses, and in one of them, which is a large company, we were going along thinking everything was right till we got some experts in and found out that it's not right, and that we'd been hacked, and we'd lost 3 months of data that we didn't know about, etc., etc. And then I've heard of a couple of professional service firms, 2 in Geelong, Mark, who actually handed over $50,000 and didn't want to tell anybody because it has a reputational effect. But as we move around and as I talk to business owners, I don't believe any of them address the issue of cybersecurity properly, and they just think, well, maybe it won't happen to us, and they're flying blind. It really worries me for businesses. What are your thoughts on the cybersecurity side of the work you do?
Yeah, it is definitely something that we all need to think about. It's, even back to the basics of having 2-step authenticated, lots of our clients initially don't have any of that, don't want it. I'm like, well, now you have to. And it is something that's definitely overlooked. We have put systems in place to protect us, because we also have, and all of our files and password protectors and things like that, because we have a lot of sensitive information that, credit cards of clients and, logins and passwords and all sorts of things that can be very detrimental if something had happened or someone had got them, or, whatever. It's definitely not something. Well, one of our clients is actually in IT and does all the cybersecurity, so we've learnt a lot about it. But it's not really. There's not enough, I think, information where people understand to import. I feel like it might be one of those things that it's hard and complicated to think about. But you can even get, we have an app all attached to our computers that is running all the time just to alert us, make sure all of our files are safe, our emails are safe, and that even just there is a good tool to have.
Just even on your home computer.
Yeah.
Because, Mark, I got a product that's on my system from Extreme Technology in Geelong, and it updates all the time, but it's always putting up notices when I turn on about what's going on all the time. So it's actively going on and on. But even I think sometimes, regardless of what I've got, somehow somebody might try and hack it. Now, I'm a one-man band, so and I don't keep a lot of data. So hopefully I'd never get attacked. But I really do worry about a lot of... And when I was doing the judging on the Small Business Awards, and you go out and you talk to the businesses, I believe people are too blasé. Yeah, and it takes an attack for them to wake up and do something about it.
And unfortunately, the weakest link in every business is the people, because they're the person that... I did work for did some work for a government instrumentality where some people had their passwords written on a sticky note sticking next to their screen because they couldn't remember their password. And every month they would reset the password as part of their cyber rules. So they'd write it on a sticky note and stick it next to the screen. Like, that's always the issue. Anyway, Dominique, how do people get in touch with you?
Well, you can either go to our socials, Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or our website. And it's
ViewPoint Digital Media.
Digitalmedia.com.au. Yep.
And if you're listening and you want to get someone involved in your social medias and your Instagrams and your website, Dominique's the person to go to, because as you can tell, Dominique's very knowledgeable and runs a great team over at ViewPoint Digital Media. Bill, anything else you'd like to ask Dom?
No, but thank you, Dominique, for coming in today. It's I've noticed that your business is sort of just keeps growing and growing and growing, and you've certainly got the passion for it. So I look forward to catching up. Maybe we do another catch-up, another 6 months or so, Mark, and see what the next episode of your life is all about.
Yeah. No, it's definitely growing. It's a full house in there. We've got the studio is also for hire upstairs. So if any local photographers or videographers need to use the space, please give us a call and have a look at the space. But yeah, there's lots of movement happening in the digital world. So yeah, we'll see about maybe we should do an education piece.
Absolutely. So thanks for coming in, Dom.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, good luck. Thank you.